In 2019, a woman in Seattle placed her mother-in-law's body in a steel vessel filled with wood chips and straw. 30 days later, she had enough nutrient-rich soil to fill her entire garden bed. The tomatoes that summer grew so large, she had to stake them with rebar. This was not a crime. This was the most environmentally friendly thing you can do with a dead body, and the funeral industry has spent billions making sure you never consider it. They call it human composting. The state of Washington calls it legal. In May of 2019, Washington became the first state in America to legalize turning human remains into soil. Not cremation, not burial, composting. By 2023, 6 more states followed: Colorado, Oregon, Vermont, California, New York, and Nevada. It is the same biological process that farmers use for dead livestock, except now humans can choose it for themselves. The woman who made this legal is named Katrina Spade. In 2011, she discovered that farmers had been composting dead cattle for decades. The process turned a carcass into usable soil in 60 days. She wondered if it would work for humans. Numbers convinced her. Cremation releases 1,500 pounds of carbon dioxide per body. Traditional burial uses 4 million gallons of embalming fluid every year. Formaldehyde soaks into groundwater. 20 million board feet of hardwood are used for caskets. 1.6 million tons of concrete go into burial vaults. All of this is to preserve a body that will decompose anyway, just slower and full of chemicals. Spade founded Recompose and partnered with Washington State University. Between 2014 and 2017, they composted 6 donated human bodies. They monitored temperature, microbial activity, and pathogen die-off. The results were clear. In 30 days, a human body placed in a vessel with wood chips, alfalfa, and straw breaks down completely. Microbes heat the mixture to 131 to 160 degrees, which is hot enough to kill pathogens and hot enough to break down bones. After 30 days, the process yields 1 to 2 cubic yards of soil, rich, dark, and odorless. The family receives the soil in a bin. They can spread it in their garden or donate it to conservation land. One body produces enough soil to grow 30 to 50 square feet of vegetables. It contains 3.5 pounds of nitrogen, 1.8 pounds of phosphorus, calcium, and potassium, everything a plant needs. But here is what makes it controversial. You are putting grandma in the garden and eating the tomatoes. The Catholic Church immediately opposed it. The Catholic Conference of Washington called it undignified, saying it treated human remains like vegetative waste. They lobbied against the bill, and they lost. Governor Inslee signed it in May 2019. Recompose opened in Seattle in December 2020. Within a year, they had a waiting list. People signed up because the math made sense. Human composting costs $5,000 to $7,000. Traditional burial costs $7,000 to $12,000. Cremation costs less, but it releases carbon. Human composting produces no emissions, and it gives families usable soil. The funeral industry saw it as a threat. The United States funeral industry is worth $20 billion a year. The industry is built on embalming, caskets, and burial plots. If bodies turn into soil, you do not need any of that, and the business model disappears. Funeral homes lobbied state legislatures. In 13 states, laws still require that human remains be buried or cremated, and nothing else. As human composting spreads, the funeral industry fights to keep those laws. In 2022, Massachusetts introduced a bill to legalize it. The Massachusetts Funeral Directors Association opposed the bill, calling it unproven. This stance came after hundreds of bodies had already been successfully composted in other states. The bill failed. But here is what they do not want you to know. Farmers have been composting dead livestock for 30 years. It is the agricultural standard. When a cow dies, you put it in a compost pile. 60 days later, it is soil. The USDA publishes guidelines. The process is identical to human composting. The only difference is we have been conditioned to think people are too special to decompose naturally. Indigenous cultures never believed this. Zoroastrians practiced sky burial. Tibetan Buddhists still do. Native American tribes used scaffold burials. These honored the dead by returning them to the ecosystem. The funeral industry convinced us natural decomposition is barbaric, that only embalming or burning are dignified. Both are recent inventions. For most of human history, bodies decomposed naturally. Human composting is a return to what we did before death became a product. Early adopters report extraordinary plant growth. Not because human soil is magic, because it is compost, high in nitrogen and minerals. One family in Washington composted their father and planted an apple tree. 3 years later, they made pie from its fruit. They said it felt like he was still feeding them. Death feeding life, the same way a fallen tree feeds the forest. You cannot patent decomposition. You cannot trademark microbes. That is why the funeral industry is terrified. Once people opt out of the $20,000 funeral, the system collapses. 7 states have legalized it. 13 ban it. If you live in Washington, Colorado, Oregon, Vermont, California, New York, or Nevada, you can choose human composting now. Companies like Recompose handle the process. 30 days later, your family gets soil. If it is illegal in your state, advocate. Contact legislators. The bills need public support. The funeral industry has lobbyists. You have a vote. The woman in Seattle said the hardest part was explaining it to relatives. But after they saw the soil, planted the garden, and harvested vegetables, they understood. Death does not have to be wasteful or expensive or poison the earth. The zucchini really were enormous. Because compost works. And if you are going to become compost anyway, you might as well feed something. If this changed how you think about death, hit subscribe for more stories that challenge what we have been taught.